Welcome back to my channel for a short Hasselblad episode. And in this episode, I want to talk and also show sample images about the largest, most heavy, most bulky lens I ever mounted on my Hasselblad X2D. And I'm talking about the HC lens, 50 to 110 millimeter. It's a lens that was designed for the medium format Hasselblad H6D. And in this episode, I will show you that lens. We'll make a little demonstration. We'll also show you sample images. Let's kick this off. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please do so. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, share and like my videos and support my work. Many thanks for that. The Hasselblad X2D is a brilliant camera. It has absolutely terrific image quality. It has a few flaws like the autofocus system. I mentioned this repeatedly on my channel, but in terms of image quality, this camera is almost unbeatable. And lenses coming from that camera are typically also not super bulky. I mean, there's a macro lens, which is a bit longer and so on. Here I have an example. That's the 3.4 75 XCD lens. It's one of the newer lenses. I did just shoot this lens this week with my photo model Stefanie here in the studio. And they are okay in terms of weight, and they are also okay in terms of size. But for these type of cameras here, the medium format Hasselblad H6D, Hasselblad developed back then, it's many years back, dedicated lenses. And you see here is another lens mounted and also a shift mechanism here for architectural photography. And the whole camera system is big, so there is not really a problem designing big lenses. And so back then, Hasselblad engineered, designed the HC. Let me try to show this here. It's the HC 50 to 110 millimeter, and it's developed for that H6D camera and in general for the medium format digital cameras of Hasselblad. Now, mounting this thing to my Hasselblad X2D is kind of a freaky idea, right? If you look at the proportions. And of course, there is also a large adapter in between. So that's the XH lens adapter. Let me try to put this in the camera so you can see this. And that makes the camera lens combination even more heavy. So how did I come up with the weird idea to shoot this monster lens on the otherwise pretty small Hasselblad X2D camera body? Well, as I said, we had 2 days of photo shooting this week. This is one of the lenses we used. And since I had my photo model Stefanie with me in the studio anyway, I was waiting in a break and basically revisited this lens. It was over there in the glass vitrine, which you can see there are more lenses of this type. And I thought, Stefanie is here, why not just trying it out? Let's give it a try. Let's do a few shots and let's see how this plays out. And actually, I was quite surprised by the results, but I come to sample images later. Let's quickly talk about that camera lens combination. So first of all, let's place this comfortably on the table here. So first of all, this lens adapter, of course, is so long and extends the lens so long that it is not only reducing the minimum focusing distance, but most importantly, also reducing a bit the image quality. And you will see in the images, they are sharp, they are good, but they are a bit more soft than what I typically present when I talk about the Hasselblad X2D. Looking into the specifications of this lens, we find some interesting data points. So first of all, it's a 50 to 110 millimeter lens, but the focal length in the specifications is actually 51.6 in the normal focal length area, and then 108.3 instead of the 110, which you see here on, by the way, the focus ring. Let's have a look here. So we have here, it's very nice in terms of build quality. As heavy as it is, as well as it built. 50 millimeter, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 and 110. But the specifications on the Hasselblad website say it's actually 108.3 millimeter. And here, instead of 50 millimeter, it is 51.6 millimeter. Now, I will not pay attention to these details here in the video. And of course, focal length is focal length. So if we think about what is the full frame equivalent field of view on a Hasselblad X2D, We cannot use the specifications from the spec sheet on the Hasselblad website because all the numbers here refer to that lens being mounted on the H6D. And the H6D has a larger sensor than the X2D. The X2D has a medium format sensor, but smaller, with 44 times 33 millimeter. So what is the full frame equivalent field of view? Well, we take the 50 millimeter, if we go with it and forget about the 51.6 in the spec sheet, multiplied by 0.79. That's the crop factor of the sensor here in the X2D compared to a full frame sensor. And then we end up by, give or take, in the widest setting in terms of focal length, 40 millimeter. And 110 millimeter times 0.79, that's close to 90 millimeter in a full frame equivalent field of view. So that's kind of the perspective you have if you want to compare the field of view in this camera lens combination with a full frame equivalent setup. Let's talk about the weight of the lens. So the weight of the lens, if I have it here without the adapter of course also contributes to the camera lens combination. The lens itself has 1,650 grams, so 1.65 kilogram. And as I said, is likely the heaviest lens I've ever mounted on the Hasselblad X2D. Shooting and holding it is comfortable. You can hold it in the palm of your hand. You can also hold it at the front end here, which stabilizes the camera a little bit. And you can operate here the zoom ring, and you have here a focus ring. And as I said, the build quality is beyond any doubt. It's really good. But shooting Stefanie here in the studio with that camera lens combination, not on a tripod, but in my hands, was quite a challenge. I'm not a bodybuilder. I don't go to the gym every day. And after a while, I felt that my arms get tired from holding that camera lens combination. And all in, as I said, we have camera adapter lens, and all of them contribute some weight. And the lens by far contributes the largest weight in terms of 1.65 kilogram. The minimum focusing distance of the lens standalone is 0.7 meters. So we talk about 70 centimeter here. And given that this XH adapter also functions in the same way as an extension tube, we likely can get even closer to our subject. The maximum magnification is not something to write home about, is 1 divided by 10.8, and that means for close-up shootings standalone, the lens is not really suitable. With the extension tube, I would have to try this out, but that was not the topic of my quick in-between shooting with Stefanie. Last but not least, a lens that big has a monster filter thread, and that's 95 millimeter here. So whenever you want to buy a filter for this lens, you better have deep pockets, because that will cost you some money. Now, this combination here, the adapter, the XH adapter with HC lenses and the Hasselblad X2D, is actually working with autofocus, which is astonishing. So let me switch on the camera and let me give you a flavor how this works. Here we go. Let's switch it on quickly. And let me go here into the menu. For Stefanie, I had face recognition. I switched this off now here in the studio. We can change here. I'm in fully manual mode. I can change here my shutter speed with the dial. I can change the aperture with the front dial. Let's go here for an f4. By the way, that's also something I should mention. It starts, if I go to 50 millimeter, I can actually open the aperture as wide as an f3.5. But the moment in time I start to zoom, the aperture starts to stop down. So it's not a constant widest aperture lens. It really depends on what focal length you have chosen. But it is between, what do we have here, 4.5, and here it was 3.5. So that's quite acceptable. And in a full frame equivalent setup, this would be even a smaller number, of course. So now if I remove here, let's get the lens cap off. If I remove that and go into live view, I probably will be better off here to go actually into aperture priority. Then everything else is figured out by the camera. And I also go to an auto ISO. I was here shooting Stefanie at an ISO of 64. Let's go to auto. In the semi-automatic modes on the X2D, we can use auto ISO. Listen to the motor, which is moving the glass in this heavy and pretty old lens. But it finds focus. Let's take that shot. Boom. Very nice. Let's go here into play. Let's double tap. And you see, my picture here, my large print from that watch on the wall was captured very well. As you will see later with Stefanie's images, it is softer than when I, at a certain point in time, present here my images from Stefanie with the XCD75. That's, of course, a lens which is optically calculated, optimized for the Hasselblad X2D, and it does not have a monster extension tube in form of an adapter in between. So the image quality is much, much better. but the images from Stefanie, which I'm going to show in a moment, they look pretty good. Listen to that. Let's focus somewhere else. Listen to the motor. Isn't that impressive? But it finds focus. And what was tricky, of course, when I was here in face detection, the lens really had difficulties realizing that. There was very often a rectangle around Stefanie's face, but it was not really working. So I had to improvise a little bit in order to get these shots I'm going to show later. But all in, it works. You can use it as an autofocus lens, and it will find focus most of the time if you are in field autofocus. Quite nice. I think that's all I wanted to say to the lens in terms of specifications, handling, and how you shoot it. I want to show you now the images because I like them. I think they are pretty nice, and then I will conclude the video. Okay, so let's look into a few sample images from my in-between shooting with Stefanie here. And we decided for a black-gray background, if you look at that image here. And Stefanie was wearing, let's call it a casual, relaxed business outfit. And all these images, the next ones I'm going to show, so this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, they're all shot at ISO 64, which is the base ISO for the Hasselblad X2D, widest open f3.5 and at 50 millimeter. So the widest setting in terms of focal length we get on that HC lens. And if you look at these images, I'm actually quite surprised how well they come across. And whenever I mount HC lenses, so former legacy Hasselblad lenses, onto the X2D or the 907X, I'm actually very pleased. I think these camera lens combinations, they create character in images. And if you look here at Stefanie, it's also reasonably sharp. Look at her face here. It's not as brutally sharp as it would be if I would have used the XCD 75mm, which I showed before in the video. These new XCD lenses are calculated, optically optimized for the X2D system, and they are brutally sharp, sometimes more sharp than you wish for. This camera lens combination here produces a very pleasant sharpness, and I like the way Stefanie's face here with all the colorings, the details comes across. Very nice. Next picture here, Stefanie in an even more relaxed pose, and if you look at that, very nice. Well done by the camera lens combination, looks really good. Also on her outfit, everything is sharp and in focus, looks nice. Here another shot, and let's continue here. I like this one here. Once in a while, if you make a joke behind the camera, Stefanie is smiling, and here she actually got not only tempted to smile, she really smiled, which I liked, of course. Then we have here another one, and here we have two half-body shots. They actually also look very well. And again, probably the only point I want to make with that video is if you have access to HC lenses from the, let's say, older medium format camera system from Hasselblad, but already digital, you can also go for film roll lenses, of course, on 503 and other cameras in that series. And you have an adapter to mount it on your Hasselblad X2D. Try it out. That's my recommendation. Look at these images. Character. I think that's the word that best describes it. I like these images a lot. I'm happy with them. I wanted to show them quickly in order to give the video some flesh on the bones, and I hope you like these images in the same way as I like them. I think the sample images from Stefanie, they look very nice. I think they have a very strong expression, a very nice look, and although they are not as pixel peeping sharp like the pictures you will see when I have my video finished on the XCD 75, they are impressive. I like them, and I think they do justice to Stefanie, my photo model here. If you liked that video, don't forget to drop me a thumbs up. Stay tuned on my channel. There's always more to come. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and healthy. And of course, peace out.